Hash, the pharaoh who was erased from existence. Imagine being so powerful that you ruled the most advanced civilization on Earth. Imagine commanding armies, building monuments that touched the sky, and being worshipped as a living god. Now imagine that after your death, someone walked into every temple, every tomb, every sacred wall in Egypt and carved your face away. They chiseled your name out of stone. They smashed your statues into dust. They wanted the world to forget you ever existed. And for over 3,000 years it worked. This is the story of Hatshepsut, the woman who became pharaoh, and the ruthless campaign to erase her from history itself. For centuries, this was hidden from the world. When early archaeologists explored the temples of ancient Egypt, they found something deeply unsettling. Across dozens of monuments, someone had methodically destroyed inscriptions. Faces were hacked off walls. Cartouches, those oval frames containing royal names, were scraped clean or filled with the names of other rulers. Whoever did this wasn't acting out of random vandalism. This was systematic. This was personal. This was someone trying to murder a legacy. To understand what happened, we need to go back to ancient Egypt around 1479 BCE. The great pharaoh Thutmose II had just died. His heir, Thutmose III, was barely more than a toddler, far too young to rule the most powerful kingdom in the ancient world. So his stepmother, Hatshepsut, stepped in as regent. She would guide the boy king until he was old enough to take the throne. At least, that was the plan. But Hatshepsut had other ideas. Within a few years, she did something that no woman in Egypt had successfully done before. She didn't just act as a caretaker for the throne, she claimed it, fully, completely. She declared herself pharaoh, not queen, not regent pharaoh. She wore the royal headdress. She wore the ceremonial false beard. She had herself depicted in statues and carvings as a male king, with broad shoulders and a man's physique. And before you think this was some kind of disguise, it wasn't. Everyone in Egypt knew she was a woman. This was a deliberate political statement. She was telling the world that she held the same divine authority as any man who had ever sat on that throne. And here's what historians don't tell you often enough. She was extraordinary at it. Hatshepsut didn't seize power and then cling to it through fear. She earned it. Under her rule, Egypt entered one of its most prosperous periods. She launched a legendary trading expedition to the distant land of Punt, bringing back gold, incense, ivory, and exotic animals. She commissioned some of the most stunning architecture Egypt had ever seen, including her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, a breathtaking structure carved directly into the limestone cliffs near the Valley of the Kings. It still stands today, and it is still magnificent. She ruled for roughly 20 years, 2 decades of peace, wealth, and power. When she finally died around 1458 BCE, Thutmose III, now a grown man, took the throne that had technically been his all along. And for about 20 years after her death, nothing happened. Her monument stood, her name remained on the walls, her statues kept their faces. Then, suddenly, the destruction began. The truth was buried for a reason. Someone ordered a campaign of erasure unlike anything Egypt had seen. Workers were sent to temples, tombs, and monuments across the entire kingdom. They carried chisels and hammers. Their mission was precise: find every image of Hatshepsut, find every mention of her name, destroy it, replace it, make it disappear. Her cartouches were scraped away and overwritten with the names of Thutmose I, Thutmose II, or Thutmose III. Her statues at Deir el-Bahari, dozens of them, were torn down, smashed, and thrown into a pit in front of the temple. Her image was hacked off walls so thoroughly that in some cases, only a faint outline remained. For thousands of years, the ancient world forgot she existed. When historians first pieced together the timeline of Egyptian pharaohs, there was simply a gap where Hatshepsut should have been. A missing ruler, a ghost in the dynasty. So who did this? And more importantly, why? The obvious suspect is Thutmose III himself. He had spent his entire youth in her shadow, technically pharaoh but practically powerless, while his stepmother held the real authority. Many early historians painted a simple picture. A bitter stepson, humiliated for decades, finally taking his revenge on the woman who stole his throne. It was a narrative that felt satisfying, almost poetic in its cruelty. But the evidence tells a more complicated story. This changes everything we thought we knew about this mystery. If Thutmose III hated Hatshepsut so deeply, Why did he wait 20 years after her death to begin the erasure? He had 2 full decades where her monument stood untouched. That doesn't sound like a man burning with rage. That sounds like something else entirely. Modern Egyptologists now believe the erasure wasn't about personal hatred at all. It was about politics. Thutmose III was aging. He was preparing his own son, Amenhotep II, to take the throne. And there was a problem. Hatshepsut's reign had set a dangerous precedent. If one woman could claim the title of pharaoh, what would stop another powerful woman in the royal court from doing the same thing? What would stop someone from challenging his son's right to rule by pointing to Hatshepsut as proof that the throne didn't have to pass from father to son? The erasure wasn't revenge. It was a political insurance policy. By removing Hatshepsut from the official record, Thutmose III wasn't punishing a dead woman. He was protecting the future of his dynasty. He was rewriting history to make the line of succession look clean, unbroken, and entirely male. No anomalies, no exceptions, no precedent for anyone to exploit, and it almost worked perfectly. But here is where the story takes its final, remarkable turn. They couldn't erase everything. The pit where they dumped her shattered statues was discovered by archaeologists, and many of those statues were reconstructed. Inscriptions in hidden chambers survived because the workers simply didn't find them. And in 2007, a team led by Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass identified her mummy, confirming that she likely died around the age of 50 from bone cancer, with complications from diabetes and a tooth abscess. 3,500 years after powerful men tried to wipe her from existence, science brought her back. Today, Hatshepsut is recognized as one of the most successful pharaohs in Egyptian history, male or female. Her temple at Deir el-Bahari is one of the most visited monuments in Egypt. Her story is taught in universities around the world. The erasure failed. History has a way of finding the truth. No matter how deeply it's buried, no matter how many chisels they use, no matter how many centuries pass. And that raises a haunting question. If they tried this hard to erase one of the greatest rulers in human history, what else has been hidden from us? What other names have been scraped from the walls? What other truths are still buried beneath the sand, waiting for someone to dig them out? Speaking of buried truths, our next mystery takes us to a Roman emperor who vanished from history for an entirely different reason. His own soldiers erased him not from monuments but from the living world. His death was so disturbing that the Roman Senate tried to pretend he never existed. That story is coming soon, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. If this mystery kept you watching until the end, subscribe to Historical Secrets and hit that notification bell. We uncover what the ancient world tried to hide every single week. And share this with someone who loves history, because stories like Hatshepsut's deserve to be remembered, not forgotten. We'll see you in the next one.